Hi everybody, and welcome to Haiku with Bukasai Shigawa, and welcome to my studio. I'm coming to you from the subarctic interior of Alaska, in a town called Fairbanks. This channel is going to be all about haiku poetry, tanka, senu, and haiga. So welcome, I hope you enjoy, and the first book we're going to look through is Up the Mountain, and I hope you enjoy. Today we'll look at a haiga. A haiga is a poem created to go along with a image, and both the image and the poem should be able to stand alone on their own, and they should complement one another. And sometimes I do that successfully, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it sounds great and it's not really a good haiga. Sometimes the image looks great and it's not really a good haiga, and sometimes they come together and they are definitely a haiga. So we'll read this one. Sunlit wildfire, light bleeding from tree to tree, a spreading blaze, dawn. So I'll show this to you. See how well we can get this on camera. It's kind of a large one. So there we go. Sunlit wildfire, light bleeding from tree to tree, a spreading blaze, dawn. And again, this was taken and created up in my hovel early in the morning on a walk. I don't remember quite all the details, but I was either going to get wood or bringing wood back. And the light just was coming to the trees, and it just made it look like it was kind of visually on fire. The light was right at the right angle. I think also being on such a large slope, anywhere the slope was from 22 to maybe 10% slope that I lived on in my hovel. And so that angle of the trees coming up off the angle of the earth and the angle of the sun made it so that just at the right moment it looked very dramatic. The contrast was very stark. So that's number 131 from Up the Mountain. Here's number 168 from Up the Mountain. Most beautiful death. Life epitomized while yielding. Drifting cherry blossoms. And I'll let you see that one. So I remember this one very vividly. I used to go to Japan and visit quite often, and I remember this was one of my first, not my first, but one of my first viewings of cherry blossoms at that time of year when they blossom. And this is before they started doing the hybrid trees where everything would bloom at the same time. You could go take a bullet train and go from southern Japan up to northern Japan, and the blossoms would be blossoming at different times, just like they do on the east coast of the US. Fall foliage comes in at different times, but now they tend to come in all at the same time because they're hybrids. Yeah, I remember seeing their death, and to me they're dying. When the cherry blossoms, the leaves come off, that's their death, they're dying. And it epitomizes, they're yielding to death and inevitable cycle of life. And they really look beautiful coming down and drifting. They're drifting as they come down. And so that just really stood out to me. And that's why I was up in my hovel thinking about that, recollecting being back in Japan and having had that experience, and comparing it to, I think, comparing a little bit to the pine needles falling in the woods, in the forest. Pine needles in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon are a lot louder when they hit the ground. They sound like snowflakes to me if I close my eyes, whereas the cherry blossoms are, for the most part, silent, unless they're, well, I can't say they're silent, they're just a lot quieter.